Hello, welcome back. I'm continuing in the read of 11th Hour of Days of Ragnarok. I'm the author Tyler Woods, and we're picking up on page 177. We have lunch with Mom and Dad and talk over camp activities and coming events. Dad gives an update. Jim is planning a supply run later this week. Do you need to add anything? Our last communication before he leaves will be tonight. I say we need some wire to make more snares, but I think it's on his list already. We plan to be there anyway. I wouldn't miss Jim's 10 o'clock news. I looked to Anna for input. Our med list update was sent already. I don't know how much you can fill this soon, but every bit helps. Mom, thanks for your notes and gifts you sent for John in isolation. I know the gifts were from the heart or from the children, but thanks to you for organizing them. It really brightened his day, and I think it helped him feel better. It was my pleasure, Mom replies. I'm glad they helped John, but I think it was good nursing that helped most. I can only imagine where that would have gone if it was the flu. Camp life keeps everyone busy, but meals are always a good time to catch up. Lunch continues with small talk, and that night we meet again at the communication hut. Gathering to listen to Jim's news update is the camp's only link to what happens outside our canyon hideaway. Without that link, imaginations and ignorance can feed bad decisions. Jim and Rita are also an emotional anchor. We are not alone or cut off, and each radio contact instills another dose of hope for a camp of survivors. Travis McCann and his sons Willie, Pete, and Greg come to visit. They came for dinner but stayed for the contact with Jim. Travis has his own shortwave radio and listens to each contact, but he can't transmit and comes to camp from time to time on contact dates. XF1 FNF, we copy. Go ahead, Jim. Pat turns the volume up so all can hear. Good evening, everyone. I have some good news for some of you. HF propagation has been smiling on us this week, and I was able to reach Ed Iverson for nearly 15 minutes. Clear up in Alberta. Anna lets out a squeal of excitement as both Scott and I lean closer to hear. Anna and Scott, your mom is doing well. She and the family send their love and want you to know that Parliament was able to organize some relief to their area. They're stocked and ready for winter, but said to tell you that their first snow has already come. That's good news, Jim. Anna can hardly contain herself over here. That means a lot. Back to you. News from the lower 48 is spotty. What I do get is often low power text mode. Still no grid power, but violence is isolated to non-existent. Those with food and water are hunkered down and staying put. Potable water is the new gold standard with food a close second. The good news is that there are people out there. The cities are empty, but out in the remote areas, people are holding on. Jim, this is Matt. On behalf of all here at camp, we're sending you and Rita our thanks for all the time and late night hours to keep us informed. It means a lot to everyone here. Were you able to handle many of the list items? Thanks, Matt. We love each and every one of you. I wish we could bring you all here with us. As for the list, I was able to get your copper device fabricated by a local craftsman. It looks like he's doing a great job. He even shined it up for you. Tell Anna and Jackie that there's a package coming for them with all but item 7 and item 9. They will likely fill next time. List 2, items 3 and 7 are short. List 4, item 8 is short. All other lists are either full or partial. Though NVIS transmissions are difficult to trace, lists are always sent by text and referenced by number. Openly communicating incoming supplies is an invitation for trouble from anyone with the ability to intercept those messages. Caution is the rule and a practice we strictly follow. Got that, Jim. No ads. Is there any more? Is Travis there? Pat hands the mic to Travis, who is standing close. Hello, my old friend. Travis here. Rita says she's sending you and the boys some cookies. And before all you hungry folks at camp flood the hut with drool, she is also sending supplies for making cookies to Stephanie and Christy. Travis has a big smile. Kiss that woman for me, Jim. She's sweeter than the chocolate chips. Jim replies, how are you holding out? Can I make an ad for you and the boys? Thanks for asking, Jim. We can use some number 4 from the standard list and some 7 if you can spare it. Will do. CU0900 at LZ5, K5OSI, XF1 FNF clear. Pat already has the modem turned on to catch the following PSK31 data that Jim always sends. It contains the real time and landing location, but is never the same as the voice message. The modem drives a tablet computer, and a message appears on the screen as text begins rolling up the screen. Travis and Jim are watching as several different batches of data fill the screen. Travis asks Jim, got your Julian calendar calendar handy? I'm curious and stay to watch. What does the Julian date have to do with the message? Pat answers, Jim sent several combinations of dates, times, and landing locations. Only one is real. The rest are decoys. Each has a 4-digit number assigned. The first 3 digits are a Julian day, and the 4th is the last digit of the corresponding calendar day. We ignore data where the Julian day does not agree with the calendar day. There are 4 batches of delivery data where the Julian date and calendar day agree. 2 are odd Julian dates, and 2 are even. Today's calendar date is an odd number, so we discard the first and third batch. Since we are in the first half of the month, the first batch of remaining data is the one we want. Jim will be landing at T3 on Saturday at about 7 in the morning. All he needs now is our confirmation. Travis keys a single 2-letter response on the tablet computer and copies it several times before hitting send. The letters are WC for will comply. Fresh supplies will be here soon. T3. With just enough moonlight to slowly navigate the dirt road out of camp, more of a trail than a road, but the ranger has no difficulty. Scott and I are to continue east on 170 and meet up with Travis, Willie, Pete, and Greg just short of Terlingua. The diesel's purr at low speed makes for a quiet ride, as long as we don't hit bumps to make the empty cargo trailer boom like a drum. A soft glow on the horizon is gaining on the night sky. Daylight is coming. About a mile short of town, a single blink from a flashlight signals we've found Travis. Scott slows to a stop. We get out and shake hands while making final plans. Travis speaks in almost a whisper. Good to see you boys. Any trouble? Both Scott and I shake our heads no. Okay then, T3 is code for an actual airstrip that's past Terlingua away. We don't want to attract attention, so we'll take a couple ranch roads on the way in and take the highway coming back. If anyone hears us, they'll think we're hunting game. Terlingua isn't but a few buildings and an old ghost town, so one-time passing shouldn't hurt any. I brought my trailer, and between the two of us, we should have plenty of room to make this in one trip. Just follow us and watch the dust. We give it a nod and start back to the ranger. Willie stops me and hands me a small walkie-talkie. Willie is a big man, not fat, but big. Like his dad, Willie sports a beard, but unlike his dad, Willie's is black and bushy. Willie's first impression might intimidate some, but a kinder man is difficult to find. This radio is all set on preset number 1, he says. It's tuned down to only 1 watt, but that should be plenty for as close as we'll be. Only use it if you need it and keep conversations discreet and short. Willie smiles and looks at me. Did you bring the 308? I smile back with, wouldn't leave home without it, but let's hope we don't need it. Willie walks back to the truck, nodding in agreement, but leaves with the words, better to have it than need it. Following a pickup and trailer over ranch roads is not easy in the dim light of an imminent sunrise. Scott stays back far enough to keep from eating the small amount of dust that Travis is kicking up. However, keeping an eye on him, the road, and watching for spooked game is a full-time task. We arrive at the edge of the airstrip clearing by 6:30. Travis signals us to stop, where the brush meets the grass. He glasses the area with binoculars, listening and watching intently. Then he sees it. A pickup truck is parked off the taxiway near a small hangar. He scopes it with his rifle on highest magnification but sees no occupant. Nonetheless, it has to be cleared, and we don't have time enough to do it right. Travis steps back towards the Ranger and motions everyone together. There's a truck down there, and I don't know if anyone's in it. They may be waiting for the plane. It's too far to recon proper. So we have to get bold. Here's my plan. Scott, you and Greg take the Ranger right down there like you've been hunting. Take the shotgun with you. Keep an eye on that truck, but not too obvious. Drive right down the runway, not the taxiway. If there's anyone in that truck, they'll break cover when you go by. If they're armed, we'll have to cover you from here. I guess the range to be about 150 yards, so it won't be difficult to give you good cover. I don't like it, but I'm open for suggestions if anyone has a better idea. We all agree that nobody likes it, but it is the best plan available. Scott and Greg get in the Ranger and head for the runway. The empty cargo trailer bounces on the cleared grass area beside the runway and rumbles like a drum. If anyone is in that truck, they certainly hear him coming. Greg asks Scott, "You ever done anything like this before?" "Never," Scott replies. "I've had to leave a country pretty quick, but never had to troll for lead." "Me neither. It may be necessary, but it ain't comfortable." Greg is afraid, but not backing out. His dad's words keep coming back to him. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the presence of duty in the face of fear. Scott is ready to floor the accelerator if anything starts. As they pass the truck, he sees no movement. "Good," he says quietly. "It looks abandoned." Travis, Jason, and Willie each have high-powered rifles zeroed on that truck. One wrong move will cause some serious consequence, but none is merited. The truck appears empty. Travis keys the radio. "Scott, no activity from up here. How about you?" "No sign here. What's next?" Scott is relieved. Travis answers, "Double back on the taxiway and take a closer look. We can't let Pegasus in without an all clear." Daylight is coming fast. Scott drives the truck while Greg stands in the back to get a good look in the cab. It is empty. As Scott says two words, "all clear," the sound of turbines grows closer. Jim is here. Travis, Jason, Willie, and Pete jump in the truck and head for the airstrip. Pegasus makes a low downwind pass to check the strip and then turns for a landing. Jim is accustomed to making landings at dawn or dusk with no aircraft lights. He brings Pegasus down and turns around in less space than a lot of smaller planes. As he taxis back to takeoff position, the Ranger and truck converge. The door opens and Travis boards. "Good to see you, Jim. Any trouble this trip?" "Smooth as ever," Jim replies. "I'm beginning to think I may have some protection going on." "Like angels, you think?" "We count on them." Travis claims that men make him careful, but God keeps him safe. Scott and I are right outside the cargo door, and as it opens, we see Jim. I speak first. "What a lovely face." Jim acts embarrassed and says, "Oh, you say that to all us good-looking guys." Laughing as we unfold and attach load ramps, Jim gives the orders. "We have a heavy, so back your truck up here." Greg gets in the truck and backs up to the cargo bay as Jim and Travis lift the ramps to the end of the trailer bed. A steel barrel is unstrapped, tipped on its side, and rolled down the ramps as two men let out ropes that control its progress. With the barrel on the trailer, Greg backs it in place and straps it down for the ride. The rest of the cargo is easier. Boxes and bundles, mostly, but there is one strange-looking copper device with tubes connecting to it. It's about 5 feet tall and has a tag with Dad's name on it. "Be careful with that thing," says Jim. "It's a special order." Jim reaches for a small package and hands it to Travis. "Rita wanted me to make sure you got this." Travis thanks him and tucks the box under his arm for very special keeping. Only the box marked for Anna and Jackie is labeled fragile. In typical form, among quick handshakes and Godspeed, Jim and the plane head down the runway. The last supplies are loaded and both vehicles head down the runway toward the highway and home. As we pass the abandoned truck, Greg notices something. A young girl of about 3 years comes running out of the hangar building with a woman chasing after her. They don't get 10 feet out of the building before Greg sees them and tells his dad to stop. The terrified woman runs back into the hangar with the child and shuts the door. Did you see that? Asked Greg. Was I seeing things? Willie is in the driver's seat and looks through the opening where a back window used to be. If you were, so was I. They were just about back in the door when I caught sight. What do we do now? The ranger is pulled alongside the truck, and both are stopped. Travis would normally keep moving. That would be the safe thing to do. But this time he doesn't feel right about it. We can't leave them till we know they're okay. But we have to keep smart. Willie, you and Scott stay here and keep an eye out for any sign of trouble. If you see anything wrong, and I mean anything, you hightail it back to camp and bring help. We can't afford to risk these supplies, especially those chocolate chip cookies. Travis's humor takes the edge off for the moment. Jason and Pete, you go around the back of the building. Greg and I will go to the front. Be careful. We don't want to shoot any women or children, but I don't want any of us bled either. Travis takes the shotgun, but we leave the rifles with Scott and Willie. If we need more than sidearms, we'll need more help anyway. Approaching the hangar is easy, but there's absolutely no cover. I'm glad that at least be close to the building. One of the hangar doors is open by about 4 feet at the bottom. The rest are closed. Pete lies down on to the side of the door to look inside. I do the same from the opposite end. Nothing is obvious, and the girl and lady are nowhere to be seen. Travis or Greg must have opened the man door on the other side because light shines across the floor, and I can make out a single child's toy about 20 feet from the far door. It's one of those push toy ducks with rubber feet attached to the wheels that go flap, flap, flap when you push it. Travis calls from the other side of the hangar. Hello. Do you understand English? We won't hurt you. Hola, ¿entiendes a inglés? Nos no referimos. Basically a translation into Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. Do you need help? I'm surprised to hear Travis calling out this way. His voice is so disarming. I'm thinking I'm ready to answer him myself. Then comes a woman's voice that sounds very frightened. Can you help us? Please don't hurt us. We're over here. Travis opens the door wide so he can see where the voice is coming from. When he steps into the hangar, the woman lets out a short scream when she sees him. Travis realizes it is the shotgun she fears and immediately puts it down. I'm not here to hurt you. Tell me how I can help. Travis is slowly walking toward a place in the corner of the hangar, barely out of sight from where Greg and I are. My husband is sick. Can you help us? The lady pulls back a blanket she has draped over some boxes to reveal a pale-looking man lying on some packing material. He doesn't look good. Travis comes close and looks at the man, then turns to the lady. She has stepped into the light. Ma'am, my name is Travis McCann. I live near here. What's your name? She replies, I'm Becky Spencer. This is my husband, Chris. My daughter is Gina. She's 3. Becky is a young woman in her 20s. She has long, light brown hair pulled back into a ponytail. Her husband looks to be in his early 30s, but it's hard to tell with him being so sick. Gina must be hiding because there's no sign of her. Travis has a commanding presence, but a soothing voice as he talks with her. Becky, I don't want you to get alarmed, but I have others with me, and I would like to join us. 3 are my sons, and 2 are also good men. Would it be okay for me to call them here to help? Becky fearfully nods yes, and Travis speaks a little louder. Jason, Pete, Greg, it's all right. Come on in and meet these folks. We need to give them a hand. Greg comes in first. He is holstering his pistol as he clears the door. Pete and I holster our weapons and walk toward Travis. Becky Spencer, I'd like you to meet my sons, Pete and Greg, and our good friend Jason Connors. My third son, Willie, and another man, Scott Iverson, are watching the vehicles. Becky nods a greeting, but it's obvious she's been under a lot of stress and appears weak. I greet her also. I'm glad to meet you, Becky. Is that your truck outside? Yes, she answers. We drove here from our home in Lubbock, but couldn't find gas to go further. It was almost out of gas when we found this place. You're the first people we've seen in days. When did your husband get sick? Asked Greg. About 2 days ago. He's worse today. Maybe God sent Gina to find you. I was too afraid that you might be bad people. Excuse me, Becky, but I need to clear something with Jason before I can discuss options to help you. Travis steps aside with me and speaks quietly for only a moment while I nod in agreement. Travis again speaks to Becky. Ma'am, we need to get your family to a safer place and your husband to some medical attention. My cabin is small and just big enough for me and my sons, but friends of mine have a camp where they can help you better. Would you come with us? The plane will have drawn attention to this place and we can't stay here. Becky agrees, and as she calls Gina out from hiding, Greg calls on the radio for Scott and Willie to drive over to the hangar. With Chris secure, Becky seated, Gina in her lap, and what little food and supplies they have, we head back to camp. Just as we start to move, Greg says, Stop a minute, we forgot something. Greg bolts from the truck and runs to the hangar door. In less than a minute, he returns on a dead run with Gina's little push toy duck in his hands. Gina's smile is the first we've seen from her as Greg hands it to her, but as time goes by, it's not her last. There's a little conversation as our full attention scans the road for possible hiding places that might be used for an ambush. We arrive at camp by noon with no incident or further complication. The Spencer family is taken directly to the ISO hut, and it is Jackie's turn to be caregiver. Jackie has learned a lot from Anna in their few weeks together, and with Anna on the other end of the makeshift intercom, she's quite capable. Becky, I'm Jackie Chambers, and along with Anna Connors, we handle medical here at camp. I'll be here with you and your family until Chris is better. And showing no sign of fever for 24 hours, it's isolation, but nothing personal. I'm right here with you. Jackie's smile is comforting. We've started an IV to get Chris's hydration back to where it should be. He was really dehydrated. I'm glad we got to him when we did. Were you out of water? Becky's answer fills in more of their story. We were out of almost everything. We had some flour and some bacon, a few cans of soup, and we ate the last of the beans the night before. We left Lubbock with 2 cases of bottled water and some milk jugs that Chris filled from the water heater, but that didn't last long. I think Chris was saving his share of the water for Gina and me. While Chris sleeps, Jackie gets to know Becky better. Do you and Chris have family out here? Becky replies, I have a sister. My parents both died 2 years ago in a crash, but my sister is married and her husband is serving in the Coast Guard up in Alaska. We haven't heard from them since the blackout, but I think they're okay. Chris's parents live on a small farm in Iowa. They don't farm much anymore, but Chris's brother and his wife live next to them and farm both their lands. We thought about going there, but didn't have the gas to go that far. How about your family? Jackie's response is a bit slow in coming. Well, my sister is here with me at camp. She runs the communications hut. My mom passed away to cancer when I was 8, and Dad raised us by himself for 3 years until he met and married my stepmom. I never felt anyone could take Mom's place, but in time, I was really glad she came into our lives. I'll always miss my mom, but Jennifer helped Nikki and I some through years of growing up. We used to live in rural Virginia, but she and Dad moved to Montana after I left for Houston, and we haven't heard from them since before the blackout. A day doesn't go by that I don't think of how they're getting along through all this. As it turns out, Chris is suffering from a rather serious stage of dehydration that followed a stomach virus. The medical supplies Jim sent contained several units of saline and administration kits. After 2 units, Chris's temperature comes down, and he is hungry. both good signs. Excitement runs high when supplies come off the vehicles. You could believe it was Christmas. 2 large bags of flour, 2 more of sugar, 1 of salt, 4 bags of layer pellets that didn't belong in the kitchen, and an industrial-sized bag of candy-coated chocolate bits. The chocolate chips are a copy of mini M&Ms that don't need refrigeration to keep from melting together. Another pouch contains butter that is impossible to keep from melting, but in the pouch it doesn't matter. Among all the food stuff are ample ingredients to make chocolate chip cookies, as Rita promised. If Rita ran for president, she would win a landslide vote from this camp. Dad comes to the kitchen with his specially ordered device. With Stephanie, Christy, and their workers looking, he explains, "You know how we've learned to make our own vinegar because we use it so much. With this, we can distill our own high-grade alcohol for the medical hut and for making extracts here in the kitchen. This is a reflux still. It's different than what's called a pot still, and it's way more efficient. What we'll need from you is to collect fruit peels and cores along with any flour or grain that you would normally toss out. We can make a mash out of that and then distill the alcohol." Stephanie slaps her knees and says, "Well, Granny, get your jug. We's in the moonshine business." After a good laugh, Christy replies, "This will be useful. We can get vanilla bean by the bushel, but extract is another story. We used to make our own extract with vodka, but that resource is gone. Having pure alcohol will work even better." At the communications hut, a party is going on. They have a box of batteries for Pat and a stack of notepads with pens for Nikki. There are some bearings for Harry to complete the wind-powered agitator for the laundry, and a big package for Jackie and Anna that they have already opened to retrieve saline packs. They decide to sort the rest of the medical things after the Spencer family is released from ISO. Travis, Willie, Pete, and Greg have 3 items. One is a wonderful smelling box from Rita. They decline to open it in camp, but everyone knows it's the cookies. It is a highly guarded box. Next is another box of batteries, and last is the steel drum of diesel. They need 30 gallons, and the drum holds 55. So they go by the camp fuel drum to transfer 25 gallons to the camp's fuel needs. Whenever they run low, the camp always helps them out. Paybacks are good business. Rita is always looking out for them. In every package, she includes sunscreen, body lotion, toothpaste, combs, and brushes, or some other thing she thinks they can use. If you needed something and forgot to put it on the list, Rita might just send it anyway. She is uncanny about knowing what you need. Anna calls on the intercom to check on the patient. "Jackie, how are things today?" Jackie moves closer to the speaker so she can be heard. "Better today, Anna. Are you ready for stats?" "I'm ready. Go ahead." "Chris's BP, 130, over 75. Heart, 57. Temp, 98.9. Becky and Gina are normal temps." "That sounds good. I think we'll spring you guys out tomorrow by lunch if nothing shows up before then. Do you need anything we can send over?" "How about some toys for Gina? She's sort of restless over here." "I'll bet she is. I'll look around and see what we have. Keep strong." Chris and Becky look much better after some food and water, lots of water. Even little Gina drinks plenty. Jackie knows rehydration is gaining when Chris asks where the restroom is. Jackie is about to answer, but Becky speaks up. "I'll show you. Gina and I have already made the trip twice today." Jackie asks, "How do you feel? You were pretty dehydrated and may still feel a bit wobbly." "I think I can make it," replies Chris. Becky puts her arm around his side, and Chris puts his arm over Becky's shoulder. Chris moves a bit slow, but accomplishes the 10 yards to the outhouse and back again. "Mission accomplished," says Chris as they return. He sits on the cot as Jackie takes his pulse, blood pressure, and looks at the whites of his eyes. "That's a milestone. Your kidneys are working, and you should be finding your strength coming back. I think your family is going to have you around for a good while, as long as you don't do something like this again." As Chris contemplated their recent events, He looks a bit amazed. I didn't see this coming. I was cutting my water rations for Becky and Gina, but thought I was handling it okay. I was tired, but didn't want to eat anyway, so I slept the time away. Next thing, I'm here. Where is here? Jackie smiles. We're a ragtag group of friends, co-workers, and associates that were invited here or had come here in the past. This camp is near Big Bend National Park. We're rather isolated by the desert and further by a steep canyon, but it's a good place to be right now. I've been talking with Becky, but I'd like to hear about you and what led you to getting down here, where we found you. We don't get much local news. Chris scoots back to lean against the wall and begins. I'm recently separated from the Army. I hadn't even received my last paperwork in the mail before there was no mail. On my last tour, Becky got into this preparedness stuff and joined a small group up in Lubbock. I came home to find the whole commissary in our living room. Chris shows his first good smile as he exaggerates the story. She did a good thing, and just in time. That was 1 week before the bottom fell out and money was no good. Becky has inner strength, as most military wives either have or develop. She has learned to manage their home while Chris was deployed, and she can think independently, but she still looks to Chris for leadership, and he is her anchor. Becky explains, with Chris away, a friend of ours gave me a book titled 11th Hour Preparedness, Making Choices While We Can. That is a shameless plug. That's okay. It's about living a more self-sufficient lifestyle. With Chris separating soon, it seemed like a good idea. We had no idea how long it might take to transition to civilian life. I stocked up on groceries and stored some recommended staples and canned goods. That helped in the short term, but we burned through it a lot faster than I thought we would. Chris continues, it was a big help, and we wouldn't be here without what she did. We live outside of Lubbock proper and managed to avoid the stealing and looting after things turned ugly. Our place must have looked too small to the looters, but the new subdivision up the road got hit real hard. There was a lot of shooting and dead looters, but it didn't stop more from trying. I knew it wasn't safe. The last straw for me was when my neighbor's wife took her own life. She was on a lot of medication and couldn't get them refilled. When she ran out, I guess the withdrawal effects were more than she could take. Her husband was beside himself with grief. I had to get Becky and Gina out of there. We loaded up the truck and tried to pack things low so it didn't look like we had anything to steal. We hadn't gone anywhere since filling the tank on the truck. There wasn't anywhere to go that was safe anyway. We had another 5-gallon can of lawnmower gas and the 3-gallon can of 2-cycle boat fuel. Draining the water heater gave us 8 plastic milk jugs full. We had some cases of bottled water and what food we hadn't eaten from Becky's store. Becky and Chris both laughed a bit as Becky says, for once it was clean under the beds. Becky, Gina, and I left our place just after midnight. I didn't use any lights and removed the lamps from the brake lights so they wouldn't give us away. We had a little slope to our driveway, so I compression started the truck and we left. We drove in the dark and just idled along at 20 miles an hour. After passing Tahuka and La Mesa on ranch roads, we picked up speed a bit. Off one of the ranch roads we took to avoid Midland, we came across a house with a small barn. The sun was coming up, so we drove into the barn thinking the place was deserted. We were wrong, Becky says. A man held us with a shotgun. I held on to Gina and was really scared. After Chris told him we had driven all night from Lubbock and didn't need or want anything except a place to rest, he looked over our truck and then asked us if we were hungry. They turned out to be real nice people. They had a little girl 1 year older than Gina and weren't much better off on water than we were. We expected to find some creeks or streams to fill our jugs, so we left them with all but a case of water and 2-gallon jugs. Chris picks up the story from here. Some stomach virus hit me that night, but we left when it got dark again and made it to the airstrip where you found us. I was too sick to put the truck in the hangar, and Becky didn't think to hide it. That's where you guys found us. and maybe just in time. The map showed plenty of streams and creeks, but when we got there, they would always be dry. Jackie explains the small creeks on those maps only run in the spring or during rainy seasons. Even the Rio Grande slows to a trickle by late summer. You were lucky we found you. God was watching over you. Becky and Jackie grow close after their stay in isolation. At dinner in the community building, Chris and his family are introduced and welcomed to the camp. Jackie joins them and chats with Becky as Chris sits next to Gina and talks with Dad and me. Gina is being shy and hasn't found a friend yet, but when Greg comes back to camp, she saddles up to him right away. Greg is more than pleased with his newfound friend. I've noticed, says Becky, that most of the women have cut their hair. I'd like to join the ranks. This long hair is a lot to wash with just a bucket of water. Then, in a playful tone, does the camp have a beauty salon? And do they accept visa? Both women laugh as Jackie answers, why, yes, we do. My sister Nikki happens to have one of the few pair of scissors in camp, but also does a pretty fair job. She has a lot of practice with her sister's hair as they grew up. All of us go to her. You might not recognize her shop, though. It's the communications hut most of the time. Let me know when, and I'd be happy to introduce you. You'll need a mailbox anyway. Mailbox? Becky looks confused. For camp mail, responds Jackie. It's where you pick up messages or leave them for others. With all the different schedules, it's an efficient way to communicate. The Spencers join the small group of families still occupying the community building at night. Bob and Lisa Isham help them settle into camp routines, and Gina becomes instant friends with their daughter, Amber. The next day, Chris leaves with Bob for a camp tour and to meet some of the others right after breakfast. Lisa offers to watch Gina as she plays with Amber, and it gives Becky some time to get her hair done. Nikki Chambers is the envy of women at the camp. Her naturally wavy golden hair not only seems to look good with hardly any effort, but it is hers without the gift of peroxide. She is very intelligent and accomplished with an understanding of higher math. Her sister, Jackie, says men feel intimidated by how smart she is. Nikki also has a flair for composition, especially when it comes to hair. She sees a woman's facial shape, complexion, and hair color as a formula she can use to derive a perfect design. Ladies at camp appreciate her way with hair. Becky Spencer, this is my sister, Nikki Chambers. Becky wants a new, shorter look. Formal introductions are so stuffy for Jackie, but her stepmom taught her to be proper. She said you can relax after you do the formal part. Nikki smiles, shakes Becky's hand, and says, I'd be delighted to help. Did you have anything in mind? Not really. Jackie said you were really good at knowing what would look best, so I thought to let you do it. Long hair is fine when you have air conditioning, but without it, hair is difficult. After some discussion and exchange of ideas, Nikki begins cutting hair. Becky doesn't want to look until it is done, but when she does, that's me? It looks great. Wait till Chris gets a load of his new wife. He's never seen me like this. Nikki, thank you. You really do good work. Becky turns and gives Nikki a hug. Then she says, we ought to celebrate with a cup of coffee. Want some? Jackie thinks she's joking and replies, sure, know of a Starbucks anywhere near? Becky's answer surprises them both. Well, no, but I have a 5-pound sack of beans in our stuff. We can make some. Nikki and Jackie just stand there a moment and look at each other, then to Becky. Jackie finally speaks. The camp's been out of coffee for weeks. Most of us just finished caffeine withdrawal. You have coffee? I'm your friend for life, girl. There's one small problem, says Becky. I only had an electric grinder, and it got left. Do we have any way to grind the beans at the kitchen? Nikki says, I'm sure Stephanie can come up with something, especially for a cup of real coffee. Realizing the smell of coffee will never be contained, Becky hatches a plan with the girls. Let's sneak the coffee to the kitchen, have them make enough to serve with lunch. It's all going to be gone sooner or later anyway. We might as well enjoy it together. Nikki, Jackie, and Becky make their way to the community building where the Spencer's things are stored in boxes. Becky doesn't take long to find the large bag of roasted beans. She wraps it in a towel and the three head for the kitchen to find Stephanie. 5 pounds, Stephanie is excited. That will last nearly 10 special meals. Do you know how to roast coffee? Asked Becky. Because I have another 2 pounds of green coffee. It was a new thing, so I bought some to try. I didn't like it, but never threw it away. Stephanie stops and looks at Becky, eye to eye. Are those green coffee beans whole, as in not ground? Becky's big smile is attached to her nodding yes. Those are seeds, Becky, and this climate can grow coffee. At least it's going to grow a lot of interest. The beans they sell for making coffee aren't the best seed stock, but they will germinate. Once they are roasted, the bean is dead, but those green beans are alive and should sprout. Coffee plants take a lot of care while they are young, but we can recruit volunteers to become foster care to their very own plants. Once they get big enough, we'll plant them together and grow a mini plantation. I thought coffee grew in a rainforest, says Jackie. We're in a desert. It does, says Stephanie, but we can duplicate a rainforest by building some trellis for shade, especially when the plants are young. They need filtered sunlight and protection from disease. If we start them in pots, they can be pampered into mature bushes. Besides, it will give the whole camp a little competition to see who can grow the best plants. Sounds like fun, says Nikki, just what we needed. Lunch is a surprise to everyone. In the institutional-sized coffee server that normally holds wild herbal tea is coffee. To the caffeine-deprived, it's a gift from heaven. Dinner comes, and the camp is still ablaze with the coffee news. Those who work out camp, as it is called, are consoled that coffee will return for Sunday breakfast as long as it lasts. Chris and Bob walk in together while Bob is joined by his wife Lisa and their 3 children, Trevor, Haley, and little Amber, who is still playing with Gina. Becky is nowhere to be seen. Jackie tells Chris that Becky ran to get something and go ahead and sit down with his back to the door. Becky comes in from behind and kisses his cheek. Chris is used to Becky's long hair, but when her short hair brushes his neck, he jumps, looking very startled. Turning to see who kissed him, he sees Becky posing with a big smile and her palms upturned by her face. Do you like it? She asks. Still stunned, Chris answers, Is that you? Wow, it looks so different. Then his disappointment begins to cloud Becky's face. He says, I love it. Stars shine in Becky's eyes again, and she asks, Do you really like it? The long hair was so much work. I can grow it out again later. Chris takes Becky in his arms and gives her a kiss. I really like it. It's a whole new you. Almost forgetting they are in the community building with the dinner crowd all watching, they snap back to reality as applause fills the room. Scott, now permanent party at the table where Roxanne sits, rises to make an announcement. Somehow, the clacky sound of a spoon against a plastic cup fails to ring like crystal stemware, but it does the trick. I understand that the Spencers have also blessed us with a supply of coffee beans. It is with deepest gratitude that we salute you and wish you to know that were it within our powers, the North Star called Polaris should be forever known as Spencer's Star. Wild laughter mixed with hear, hear, and hoisted glasses fill the room. If the Spencers had any question of their welcome, it fades quickly. Stephanie's announced request for volunteer coffee growers is met enthusiastically. Every available container for planting a seed is scooped up. As a school teacher, Melinda Wagner has taught arts and craft and has experience working with clay. She is able to make a slab-style flower pot for the coffee plants and begins her first production line for pottery. The finished pots are sent to the pit for firing. Though the first few pots don't survive the oven, they modify the temperature and begin successfully firing pots. And we will pick up again where we left off tomorrow. God bless.